What's up, you beautiful chuds, and welcome to the Let's Talk Horror Channel podcast, and welcome to the Creep Zone, where we have very honest, very unrated, unfiltered conversations about something from the world of horror. Now, this episode is an episode that I'm super excited about doing because it is a movie, and we'll definitely get into it, that has a lot going for it. It is also very much on trend, where it is a movie that it does pop up every now and again, but once again, it's not enough. I do believe it is a movie that is absolutely underappreciated. But if you're somebody out there that sees it popping up all the time, then you're on social media too much, because I don't fucking see it popping up at all. But of course, we're talking about the Autopsy of Jane Doe. As I always say, actually, I don't always say this, so maybe I should start saying this, but we're going to be getting into all of the movie. So there will be spoilers as to what happens. So make sure that you go and watch Autopsy of Jane Doe before you listen to this. Or you've mugged yourself right fucking over, and you're going to know every single thing that happens in the movie. But do you know what? Like, that's your own bloody fault. But with me to talk about the Autopsy of Jane Doe, I have a guest. If you're watching it, you can see her. If you're listening to it, then you can't, and then that's on you. Maybe you should go and watch it on YouTube. But I have Emma with me. Emma is from the Beyond the Screams podcast. Hello, Emma. Thank you for joining the show.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you on. As I said, and as usual, as I said, Emma is from the Beyond the Screams podcast, and she will promote the absolute shit out of it later on. That way, if you do it at the end, it gives you enough time to think about what you're going to say when it comes to promoting your podcast and stuff. But yeah, you're going to get your chance to promote at the end of it, because right now, of course, we got to get into talking about the Autopsy of Jane Doe, which I've just noticed I spelt it completely wrong when I was on my notes, and it's Autopsy. So there we go. Which is a completely
That's
different.
a very different
Yeah,
film.
that's just a drunk woman on a table going absolutely batshit crazy.
In a Witherspoons.
Yeah, in a Weatherspoons, yeah, just on a table. Who hasn't done that, eh?
Yeah.
So there we go. So the movie was released in 2016. So in the grand scheme of things, it's not an old movie, which, it doesn't really feel like an old movie, which is good. And we'll get into it all. It's directed by Andre. I ain't going to get this name right. Ovredal. That's wrong. Who
Yeah, that's pretty
is
good.
it? Oh,
Pretty
well,
good.
okay. There we
Yeah,
go.
yeah.
But he's directed. Do I know anything else that he's done? Probably not. Do you know anything else he's
Troll
done?
Hunters.
He did what?
He did Troll Hunters.
Oh, did he?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's about it. That's all I know. Um,
And Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark.
oh, well, there you go. See, this is what I like it when I have people on the show that know more than I do, because I do the worst preparation whatsoever. But it is starring Emil Hirsch, Brian Cox, and Olwen Kelly, who is the person that plays the Jane Doe, or whatever her real name is, because everybody knows I am awful with names and I don't know anything when it comes to doing these podcasts. But I do know Emil Hirsch and Brian Cox. But what I like about this movie, and we'll get into it, it's a very small cast. Predominantly, there is the three throughout the whole movie, and every now and again you'll get another character. But we are very reliant on following a journey between three people, and the film really benefits from that. And we will get into all of it. On IMDb, it sits at 6.8 out of 10, so that's pretty good. And then 86 on Rotten Tomatoes. So as I always say, if you live your life by Rotten Tomatoes, then 86% is bloody, that would tell you that you should go and watch this movie. If you don't give a shit
That's
about
gold.
Rotten Tomatoes, then yeah, you should still watch this movie. Google synopsis wise, two coroners start an autopsy on an unidentified girl to investigate the cause of her death. However, as they get closer to finding the answers, bizarre events take place. So Google's done all right there for once. That's not too bad. It doesn't give too much away. Normally Google's shit, as we all know. And in fact, sometimes I have to add things in there to make it make sense. So maybe I did with that. I don't know. Maybe I did the whole fucking thing. I don't remember. But either way, one thing that I always like to ask my guests, because it gets me to shut up for a bit. Do you remember when, even though obviously it was only 2016, do you remember when you first saw this movie?
Yes. So it would have been not the first, but the second lockdown.
Right. Okay.
Um, so there was the lockdown over that kind of Easter to summer, and then there was the other big one after Christmas. And my husband and I watched it. Um, I knew where it was going
Right.
because I was an idiot who listened to a podcast and
Oh,
hadn't watched.
okay. So you were like, "Oh, that
So
sounds
I
quite good."
knew where
After
it
they've
was
spoken
going.
about it, I'll best go and watch it.
It's like, oh, I'll pop that on. Sounds cheery.
Yeah.
But I wasn't. I was still really caught up in it because the I'd really kind of underestimated the atmosphere and the the slickness of
Yeah.
it. You know, I'd really, and I got really caught up in that. And I also loved, I kept kind of looking at my husband to kind of see if he was going to twig at all. And he didn't up until that kind of,
The moment.
that reveal, that little twist. Um, so yeah, loved it. Absolutely loved it. And as we were saying before, I watched it a couple of months ago with my eldest daughter, and she loved it. She had no clue. She went into it completely blind, and she loved it. And watched it again for this episode, and it just doesn't. It still packs a
Yeah,
punch.
it really does. Yeah.
There's no kind of diminishing returns with it at all. Each time I feel like I notice more and more. So yeah, that's my kind of my history
Yeah.
with Jane.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. And I'm glad you said there's loads of points that you said in that I'm going to talk about as well. And there's a lot of really good points you made, and you're exactly right about like it. It is one of those movies that I've seen this quite a lot now, and even on my view to do the prep for this, like yourself, I was still like really enthralled by it. I was really taken in by it, and there's a lot of really, really good reasons as to why this movie really captures the audience, like on multiple viewings. And like I say, we're getting to all of that as well. In regards to myself, so this is a movie that I always have like a little bit of a laugh with, because so me and my partner watched this on streaming because obviously being in the UK, I don't know if it did. Anybody that's watching this or listening in the US, you can tell me in the comments or whatever whether you saw this on the big screen at the cinema, because we didn't get a cinema release of this over here because obviously it's the UK. We don't get cinema releases of the movies that we actually want to see. So we didn't get it. It went straight to streaming. And it was at a time, I mean, very much like anything, but anything gets put on streaming. And then you think to yourself, well, we need to watch something. Let's just watch this. We were like Autopsy of Jane Doe. The cover wasn't great. It looks a little bit cheesy. You're like, you know what? We've got all these exorcism movies. We've got all these types of movies. They are always pretty much predominantly piles of shit. So most of the time, you're like, I don't know why I've put myself watching, through it, but I will. And we were both at the end of it. It was very much, we both said it was. Now, a lot of people will probably disagree with this, but we had the same sort of situation with a movie called Grave Encounters. I don't know if you've ever seen Grave Encounters. You might think it's shit. I don't know whether you do or not, but Grave Encounters is a movie that I remember specifically because I got it. I put it in the Blu-ray player, and this is when I used to live with some friends and me and my partner, and I put it in, and as I was putting it into the thing, the drawer, I was just like, this is probably going to be the biggest pile of shit that we've all seen, and I apologize. And then afterwards, we were like, how was that so good? So if anybody out there that hates Grave Encounters, then you can ignore everything I just said. But if you like Grave Encounters, then you'll know what I mean. But it was just a very well put together, structured movie for a film that should have been a piece of shit. And that's how I feel about Autopsy of Jane Doe. It wasn't out there, it wasn't spoken about. No one was really talking about it, and then it appeared on streaming, and then especially in the UK, then a lot of people watched it and created a little bit of buzz around it, and we sat there, watched it, and afterwards we were like, "What an incredible movie!" But like we do on the show, there's two reasons as to why for me it's incredible. One, separating it from the movie itself and going, is it good, is it shit? But also Autopsy of Jane Doe, very much like a lot of the episodes I talk about on the show, it is very much a filmmaker's movie as well, and the structure and the look and the design and how it is paced and how it is perfectly sort of, like I said, structured. That's why I love doing movies like this, because if people haven't seen it, hopefully it opens their eyes to go, oh shit, I want to watch it, even though they know everything that happens. But also, it means that I get to deep dive into what I love about cinema, and a movie like this, even though I thought it was going to be a big pile of shit, ended up being one of those movies that now in 2025 I do an episode about. Because if it was shit, I wouldn't. So there we go. So yeah, so it's interesting because it is a movie that didn't populate any real buzz around it, and then it is a movie that everyone I speak to that has seen it goes, yeah, fantastic movie. There's
Mhm.
nothing wrong with that movie whatsoever. And you know what? Like, you think about it, and you're like, actually, like, there's not much wrong with this movie. Is there anything I would change? Maybe there's the odd thing, and we get into that if I remember. But there are some things I might change about it, but they're not things where you're like, if I change this, it changes the entirety of the movie, because I don't think there's anything that you would change in the entirety of the movie. Um, so in regards to the movie itself, as Google says, we are the basis of the story is that we are with a father and son. Now, I don't know about you, but I love that dynamic, because I don't think we get to see it enough in cinema. We get a lot of, daughters and mothers, we get a lot of like families and stuff, but when we
Mhm.
have a dynamic where it's a father and son, we don't get that very often. But also, what I like about it is that they don't hate each other. They actually love each other. And that's what I love, is what I think is really clever about the movie, is that it's playing against type already. You're introduced, you've got a father and son, and they love each other. They don't hate each other. Of course, they've got that
Mhm.
father and son relationship where they're like, the son might want to get away, or the son like might not want to do this. But it's like, but they still have that foundation of that their father and son. And
And there's respect.
yeah,
Yeah, and I think as well, I think the dynamic that comes from the kind of mentor apprentice thing as well, it's like they've got a shorthand with each other.
yeah,
So that comes from them having worked together, but also having that dynamic,
yeah.
that like you say, they do love each other, and there is a mutual respect, and there's um Austin's respect for Tommy's profession, I think, really comes through as well. That's, you kind of see that just straight away, that kind of that professionalism that the both of them have, I think, really kind of comes through.
Yeah, and I really love the fact that it's not also like a story where it's like the father wants the kid to fall into the family business and his footsteps, which obviously is something that commonly happens, and then the kid's fighting against it. It's almost as if Brian Cox, his character, I can't remember his fucking name, but Tommy, that's it. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm I,
Tommy and Austin.
I know nothing about the names of the characters. That is never sticks in here. The only thing that sticks in here is like the movie, but never characters or the names of them. But I like the fact that he is, or Tommy is almost, with Emil Hirsch, he's almost like wants him to go and to have a different life rather than the life that he's got. So it's just already like, when you've got those characters, it's a really nice bridge to be on, a really nice journey to follow, because you know that the film is going to be more than them spending the whole time arguing, saying they hate each other and I never wanted this. Um, they're with each other the whole time. But before this, before we introduce to them, we are, if I'm remembering right, because I've got a bad memory, the start of the movie, we're actually with the cops, and we basically go into the house. And this is also where you learn that this film isn't going to pull any punches when it comes to showing you some pretty fucked up things on screen. So it's one of
Mhm.
those movies where if you think it's just going to be like a quaint sort of supernatural horror, then this isn't it. Like, this is one of those movies where they purposely were like, look, if we're going to do the blood, the guts, the gore, like, we're going to do it, and we're going to do it the way that it should be done. And I really appreciate that, because it doesn't take you away from it. It just adds to the movie
Mhm.
to give it that more of an identity. So then it's another moment where you're like, oh, remember that moment in the movie because of this. And obviously throughout the movie, and we'll talk about it, there are moments in the movie that are very reliant on things to where you're like, that's fucking gross. And then they become obviously a big part of the movie. But we get introduced to these cops, who are like, obviously the side characters of the movie. They go downstairs, there's people dead. And then we get our first look at obviously, we come to know Jane Doe. And she's like half in the dirt, half out the dirt. Obviously, absolutely starkers. She's naked throughout this whole movie, which is, a fair play to the actress. That's all I'm going to say, because that must have fucking sucked the whole time. Obviously, a lot of it will be prosthetics as well, but as far as I know, the actress herself, wanted to do a lot of that herself. I mean, the
Mhm.
problem is, it's a pretty easy day at work, lying down all day, but at the same time, she has to do it absolutely, with nothing on. So I do feel
Yeah.
for her. But yeah, we get introduced, and then we get like classic sort of lines like, "Oh no, it didn't look like people were trying to get in; they were trying to get out," and stuff like that. And already
Mhm.
you're like, "Oh, this is fucking." Basically, from the get go, what's great about this movie is that you're already intrigued by it before we get even into like identifying who we're going to be on the journey with. We've already got the blood, we've already got the intrigue of going, why is this person buried? Because at this point, we just know that it's just a person. We don't know whether they were put there because they were killed or whatever. We don't know the extent of where the journey goes, but already you're like, well, this is pretty bloody interesting, isn't it? Um,
Mhm. Something horrendous has happened here. The just the way that the bodies are shown as well. I felt like it was a real kind of foreshadow of a couple of things, actually. Kind of foreshadow of what Tommy and Austin are going to go through,
yeah,
but also a foreshadow of the science of it.
yeah,
We saw it very much. We saw like the little yellow um, triangle things with like n- it must be numbers of
numbers. Yeah, I
pieces of
think it was
evidence
like
or
data from
something.
stuff like that and parts from the
Yeah,
Bible and stuff.
yeah. So we'd seen all that, and it was quite a kind of uh I don't know what the word is. I'm losing words now. It was a really kind of, scientific is the only word that I can kinda grab
Yeah,
from my head just now. Look at the victims, we weren't getting their faces as such, it was more their injuries, and like you say, it was just that absolute gore of
yeah.
it. There was no, there was bits of flesh and stuff, and then on a knife, and then there's a gunshot wound and stuff. So it's yeah,
And when
there's
they're not holding back on it at all, and that's what's
they're
great.
setting their stall.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. So straight away, you're into it, you're intrigued by it, and then that's obviously where we start getting introduced by, with the father and son dynamic. The Emil Hirsch does have a girlfriend in it. Does it end nicely for her? We'll get into that, but straight away you're intrigued. We then learn obviously that they are at this the place where they do the autopsy. I don't even know what they're fucking called. Why don't I know what a place to do autopsy is?
It's totally different in America though, because the funeral, or so I believe, the funeral undertaker kind of autopsy coroner,
Oh,
that's
a
it.
coroner, that's it.
Coroner. It's all done in one place, whereas in the UK, it's not like that.
No,
But
no, it's done by
apparently
like
in
a co-op
America,
or
it's
something.
all kind of yeah, it's
Yeah,
all done in-house.
in-house, yeah,
It's a
that's it.
one-stop shop.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like down the local news agents at the bottom, they do the coroner stuff and everything down there. But it's
Just
what's
reel her down.
yeah, yeah, pull her down. They've got like a pulley system, and they do it just past the Twixes and the picnics, and then just
Just a
down
shoot,
there,
right?
straight down the chute, and then we go. And that's what we do. We just talk about dead bodies and think it's funny. But but anyway,
With
but
a
yeah,
dagger.
you're right. It's yeah, but yeah. So because of this dynamic, we learn very early on that obviously this is what they do. They've already had somebody in there. You already learned a little bit where Emil Hirsch is sort of learning from him, but we also learn a little bit about Emil Hirsch has obviously a real life outside of it with his girlfriend. You've got the father. Uh, obviously later on we learn a bit more about the tragedy. It's not really something where it like really gives it into your face about the tragedy of like. I think it's like I like the fact that it doesn't become about like a big
Yeah.
thing about his wife and how she died and
Mhm.
so on. And that doesn't play like a massive part in the movie. What plays a massive part in the movie is what's happening right now. It will show
Yeah.
you, little glimpses of going, oh, this might have happened in the past and so on like that. Or as we know, a
Mhm.
cat, Also, bear in mind, if you haven't watched this movie yet, a cat does die in it. So just be fucking warned. There will be a cat that dies in the movie, and it's not the nicest thing. But once again, that moment. The reason I'm saying about it is that feeds into the whole, the wife situation where you obviously understand it was a cat that they had together, or his wife's cat. And rather than dwelling on it, rather than paying a bigger part of that movie and taking you away of what's happening in the movie, it just becomes like a very sad, but also like a wholesome moment. And then obviously it gets really sad when he breaks the cat's neck. But then that it's for the good reason, like that's the thing. What's
Yeah,
great.
he loved it and didn't want it to suffer,
Yeah.
and
And the good thing is that we're with good people. That's the thing. We spent
yes.
our journey is that we're with good people that love each other. And what means that the stakes are high. That's what that means, is that as a viewer, you're like, I love these people. I don't want anything to happen to them. I'd like to be friends with them if I could. But I can't because it's a movie. But still, it's sad and you don't want anything to happen to them. And this is why I always say it's very difficult, because obviously modern day films, it's very difficult uh, for me to feel like that. And I say modern day, this was 2016, but a lot of the films that come out now quite regularly, I don't give a shit about the characters. They all feel like they filter into one person. They all feel like an amalgamation of one person. And
Mhm.
uh, you don't really have that much care for these characters, and they're just there to serve the purpose of either to die or survive, and that's pretty much it. Whereas with a movie as well written as this, and in regards to character and all the characters in it, they all serve a purpose, but a right purpose, and they're all individual, and you all really appreciate them for who they are. um, so we can go into that anyway, because obviously the movie, that is where the movie starts. So we're introduced to, as I said, overall really Emil Hirsch and Brian Cox. Now we might as well get into it, because this is obviously a big part of what the show is as well. The performances in this movie, we're just going really off the basis, they're both absolutely fantastic. Emil Hirsch, to be fair, he's very rarely, even though Emil Hirsch, he's mostly Emil Hirsch in a lot of movies, he's never like bad in those movies. He's a very good little, an actor that does little roles, and if he does bigger roles, he's always very, very good. But Brian Cox is absolutely fantastic in this movie. Like he's a prestigious actor anyway, and the fact that obviously he's in this movie is a big deal in a way anyway, because you've got Brian Cox in the movie.
Yeah,
um
yeah.
but
So
he
that lends it some kind of weight,
yes,
I thought,
yeah.
because he is so
But they are
so
both,
good.
yeah, but they are both so good in this movie. Obviously, it's difficult to say much about Owen Kelly, because she's just naked lying there, all things. So you could say she did a good performance for doing that, I suppose. um
She trained for weeks, in, yoga
oh really?
to slow her, so such advanced relaxation and meditative states that she was able to slow her breathing right down.
Oh, but there we go, fair play to her. So that's it. So she was fully committed to the role. She was just like,
Absolutely.
I've got to do this, I've got to be absolutely starkers, but I'm going to make sure that I'm, you know I was going to say a weird thing, then I was going to say the best looking corpse you'll ever see. But
Oh, she's beautiful. There's no doubt about it. Her skin is perfect. And I think as well, as the film moves on, there is the tiniest little changes to her face.
yes,
Just just tiny, almost to the point where on that first watch you probably wouldn't even notice them, but on when you like us, when you've had repeated viewings, you do see that.
yeah.
Um yeah, she's stunning. And I think as well, yes, she was naked, and yes, she looks stunning. She certainly looks like a girl who does yoga. But I never ever thought at any point that the camera lingered on her
Yes,
in a sexual way.
yeah,
It was she was a body, and the autopsy that they were doing before was a man, and the camera was exactly the same on him.
yeah.
There was no lingering of her boobs or her curves or anything like that. And it was the same for the chap who was before her, who was on the slab
Yeah,
before her.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
I like that. I like that it wasn't, because a lesser film would have just been on our boobs the whole time, wouldn't they?
Yeah,
Would have just
absolutely.
been like,
I mean, we know that horror is, obviously a genre that obviously is, sexualized women for as long as it always has, for the worse. But it's great when you see a movie where you're like, well, how much can you get away with in regards to, well, they're doing autopsies, so they could have made it a guy, but they didn't. They made it a woman. But the fact that you're exactly right, they didn't try and sexualize it whatsoever. It wasn't like, oh, let's just shove like a shot of boobs in there for people that like that sort of stuff.
Mhm.
Like it was very much like, well, this is a dead person. Like that's how they play.
Yeah.
They're not.
Mhm.
You're not supposed to sit there and go, "Oh, she's nice. She's naked." You're supposed to go, "Oh,
Uh-huh.
that's a dead person," and that's
Yeah.
really,
Yeah.
really the way that they filmed this movie and the way that they shot it and the way that they presented it. It was like, well, all you're supposed to feel is that it's a corpse. You're not supposed to feel
She's the
everything.
puzzle.
Yeah, absolutely, and you're exactly right. Is that the way that they filmed it? It never went too far. It never went like sexualized or anything like that. It was just like, like when you do get full body shots, it's for a reason. It's to serve the purpose of what
Yeah. Yeah.
next in the movie, and then what will follow on with that. So once again, and we get into that as well. It it goes to show that there was real talent in regards to creating this movie. What I like about this movie is that it's a professional movie, and what I mean by that is that you can tell when you watch a movie like this that even though I don't really know what the guy. I mean, you do, but I don't really know what the guy's done since or whatever. And I would have expected him to go on to do bigger things, to be honest with you. But he's obviously somebody that clearly understands filmmaking and I say this a lot when I get directors like this that understand filmmaking in every aspect, whether it's from shooting from a written script and portraying that a movie, but also on a technical level as well. This is a movie that's very professionally put together, which is why it was always such a shock that it wasn't shit, because you expect it to be, and then you're so surprised by the fact that it's so professionally performed, professionally filmed, and so on like that. Um, but I mean that's a big part of it as well. But we get into that. But anyway, so obviously we're introduced to these characters. They're in wherever they're doing their newsagents. Pastor Twix is doing the autopsy, and we have Jane Doe there now. Things start escalating where they start trying to figure out what the hell is going on. And that is essentially what is exciting about this movie, because it's like a mystery movie. It just becomes about, well, who is she? And then it becomes about what is she? And then it becomes about, well, how do we survive this? And that, once again, it's a movie that is constantly increasing the threat level throughout the movie, once again professionally, like very successfully, very well done. I don't feel like there's a lull in this movie. Do you think that there's like a lull like in it?
No, no, I mean, it's what, 86 minutes,
Yeah, about
something
that.
like
Yeah,
that, and I don't think there is a minute wasted in that film at all. I think it's really slick, and I think going back to that point you made earlier about how much we care for Tommy and Austin, that caring for them is there from,
yeah,
I don't know what, minute 10, something
yeah,
like that, as soon as we're introduced to them. So we're invested in it from the very beginning. And I think as well, certainly as you're saying about, it being a professional movie, so we're alerted to things that they're obviously not. We're clocking on
yeah,
to little bits and bobs that happen, and I think that kind of is a massive bonus for the pace, because
yes,
things are happening that we're noticing, then they're beginning to notice it, and like you say, the stakes just get higher and higher, and I think so much of this comes from your worry for them.
yeah,
You're just, and I loved, there's a bit that Tommy says, um and it almost kind of signals the first half of the film almost, is he sort of says, we don't need to know you
Yeah, I
know,
think
what happened to her
yeah,
before. We're here to find out how she died. They want a COD by the morning,
yeah,
but we're already, I don't know about you, but like, you know, that way where you get a dry throat and you're just like, yeah, but something's going to
yeah,
go
yeah.
so wrong.
It's not gonna work that way because he's very
Yeah,
much
yeah,
like, leave that to the cops. We're not cops. We're not, like, we're not
yeah,
investigating the murder. We're investigating, the cause of death, so to speak. We're not on the
yeah.
crime scene. It's like, oh, this is how this person did it. It's very much like they're doing the autopsy and so on. So, and I like that as well. Once again, it's a fantastic, character trait. And once again, exactly right, because, it does come down to the fact that, like, in horror, it's tough when we get movies like this because we know that it's going to get fucked up. And we know that they're either both or all of them or one of them or whatever is either going to die or survive. And the problem is the stakes are so high in this movie that, like, when it happens, even from, like you're saying, from the first 10 minutes in, you're like, I hope they find a way of surviving it. Like,
Please
because
don't
you,
let anything
yeah,
happen to them.
because it's going to get fucked up and you know that things are going to go wrong because it's horror. That's just what happens. And what's exciting about horror is about the journey we're on to get to those moments, because of already we're like, you get a sense that it's going to be a very well put together movie, and then you enjoy that moment from that point onwards throughout the movie. Whereas, it's not a shit movie that you're like, hurry up and get to the end and let's hurry up and see these people meet their demise in a horrible way. It's very much like, I don't want to get to the end because I know that these
Mhm.
people are going to meet their demise in a horrible way, and I don't want
Yeah,
that to
yeah, it's
happen
not
to them.
Final Destination, is
Yeah.
it? You know, you're not
Yeah.
you're not looking to see a screw come out of something.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or like, they're in like that room or something like that, and a light bonks him on the head or something like that, and he's gone, decapitated or something. But yeah, so we're on this journey. We know that now centrally we've got these three people. We've got the Jane Doe, and that is the journey. That is the mystery of the movie, is them where they're trying to figure it out. And as you say, along the way, we've got loads of like really little, like cool little moments. One of the things that I really like is the first time, and you're right, when we're in on things that they don't know, but gradually throughout they figure it out. Like the first time that we hear the music in the background, or we hear the talking over the storm where the guy in the background's going like, you're in for like a bad night or something like that, and
Yes,
they
I wrote, sorry, I keep
yeah.
interrupting you. I wrote down somewhere when I was making my notes, when the radio goes staticky, it's just a split second. It's like there's screaming,
Oh
and
really?
I wondered if that was from the crime scene.
What? Yeah. Oh,
Do you
okay.
know? Because remember they say, it's like she's warning them,
Yes.
don't do this to me.
Yeah.
Don't do this to me. And you know, there was lots of little warnings for them. The song, the static, the
Yeah.
storm. Do you know? But I wondered if that was from the previous
Yeah,
victims.
it could be,
But
or whether one thing that pops in my mind is if it's like screaming, is it potentially like of what happened to her? And and you never know if that was like about it. That might have been her scream of what
oh,
was happening to her as well. So that gives
I
it
like
like
that.
yeah. So I like it, but it also makes it more fucked up. Um,
Yeah, yeah. Uh-huh.
that's
Oh,
it. So, but
I
you're
know, I like it, but my blood's gone
yeah,
cold.
exactly, yeah, and you're exactly right as well. Where it's like what's interesting is that it's like it's almost like I've warned you throughout the movie, like from that moment, then it becomes almost about I told you so. I warned you. Now I told you so. Now you have to deal with the consequences, even though they're not horrible people. This is their job. This is but unfortunately,
Mhm.
that's the thing with Jane Doe, as I keep calling her. But that's the thing with her, is that is there throughout the movie you're playing on this poor woman, this poor girl that had to go through this, but also is there that maliciousness to her? Like, is there,
Mhm,
is
mhm.
she out for revenge in the most
Yeah.
horrible ways because of what happened to her? And as we see in the movie, once again, once again, it goes to how well written and how well made this movie is, because
Yeah.
all she is just a corpse, and she's just
It's
there.
just there.
Exactly, and she's just a corpse, but yeah, we're still having questions about a corpse in regards to like, but like the
Yeah,
humanity side of the questions of going, well, you feel sorry for her, but at the same time, was she made this way because of what she was doing?
yeah,
And we,
totally. It's like victim, villain.
yeah, like who is she? And that's the thing. And I think the film does a very good job at playing both sides. Obviously, gradually, where throughout the movie we get to, I don't know, like the gradually throughout the movie, I feel that she's more of the villain, but at the same time, it's because she's been made this way, and now
Mhm,
she's obviously
mhm.
exacting a revenge. The sad thing is that now it's got to the point where she's she's putting her revenge on people that don't deserve it.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, she's cursing people
yeah,
that are kind of hundreds of years away from her initial trauma, aren't they've just had the misfortune of her land on their doorstep
yeah,
type thing.
yeah, exactly,
um,
yeah,
which is it is sad, and you do feel, and Tommy seems to have a real empathy for her.
yes,
As they uncover the absolutely horrendous abuse that she's been through. And I think it was really telling as well when they're doing their kind of initial their kind of preliminary examination of her, just the kind of surface stuff, and they're holding her ankles, and you can hear the bones
yeah,
clunking together, and they're checking her wrists, and then they go to the blackboard, and they're kind of charting the injuries and stuff. And there is a real kind of um there's still a detachment of, as you were saying, this is a body, and we need to find out what's happened to her. But then they start to, could it have been sex trafficking?
yeah,
I've seen something like this before, and there is such respect for her. It does mean that I think you lose a bit of sympathy for her,
yeah,
because they treat her with such respect right up until the point where they know that she is a danger
yeah,
and they have to do something about it. But up until that point, they really are on her side.
yeah,
Tommy's very, and I've heard it say that maybe Tommy doesn't necessarily have the kind of widest view of women. I think there's a kind of thing of like, he can't believe that women can be kind of unhappy or evil, because they show themselves differently. So he doesn't always, for somebody whose profession is to look beyond the surface,
yeah,
he's maybe not done that in his personal life.
yeah.
Um,
See, I always look at him and like he just I feel like he goes dad mode. That's where I feel like it. And like he goes dad mode and he's almost like he feels for I feel like he almost sees her as like a little girl in a way. Like
yeah,
that's how I look at it. And that's what's great about this movie, because people get to look at movies like this in different perspectives. Like how I view it will be so different to how other people see it, and the mystery of what it is or who Jane Doe is, it's so open to interpretation. And like I said with Brian Cox, I sort of feel like he has nothing, like he just looks at these injuries that she's had done to her, and I feel like he has that moment where he, like, there's the bit where he's at the board like you're saying, or where they're next to her and they're finding out more of these horrible injuries that have been inflicted upon her before we start getting into like finding more about what who she is and what she is and so on like that. But I have like there's moments in it where you see like, and once again credit to Brian Cox and his beautiful face acting, but
yeah,
he's got those eyes that tell you sort of everything, and he has that sort of face where you can tell when he's happy, but also you can tell where he's so sad as well. And every time like
mhm,
he's going through those moments of talking about the things that happen, you sort of, I feel like it's almost as if he's feeling like this poor little girl, to him, this poor woman, having to go through all this. And it's almost as well, it's like professionally as well, this is probably like more than he's ever seen. So he
yeah. She
knows,
baffles him,
yeah.
doesn't she?
So he knows what the worst of the worst. I mean, literally, they just dealt with somebody who had a shotgun, to their face,
Yes, no
and
face.
yeah, oh, Mister No Face, and so he they they see the shit, but it's almost, for me, it's almost like he's uncovering essentially along the way the worst things that he's ever seen be done, and he's seen it, he's seeing it firsthand and witnessing what somebody has done to a woman, and he
Mhm.
feels so sad about it, and he feels like it goes, as I said, like almost dad mode, where it's just like, who could do this, and why would somebody do this? But once again, it's cleverly put out because we get that then, and then as we go throughout the movie, it becomes less about that and becomes more about the fight for survival, for
How do we
themselves.
stop her? Yeah.
And then it truly becomes a supernatural horror. It becomes, you know, it twists and turns this movies from what it's trying to be, but it doesn't do it where it's just like, that feels out of place, this feels out of place. It's all like blended perfectly together, from the
Mhm.
crazy gore to the supernatural side of, and the witch sort of side of Jane Doe, to the fucking monsters with that are walking around the halls.
Ding,
um
ding, 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 ding.
yeah, that's it, and that's the thing as well, I think. And I mean, we're going to go into loads more as well, but I think it's really, we sort of touched on it anyway as well. But this film, as I said, on a technical level, is really, really fantastic. The film itself looks, it's one of those movies that I'm pretty sure it definitely probably got a lower budget than what people think. I don't know what it got. I should have looked at beforehand, but because it's so technically crafted really, really well, that it means that these shots are set up purposefully for the biggest impact for what they're trying to tell you, what they're trying to show. There's a lot. The lighting in this movie is absolutely fantastic. There's some really, really good lighting. Whether it's just the shots that are set and they've got the right lighting, to things going absolutely fucking mental, and the lighting is just absolutely spot on. And when it really goes into the depths of those horror moments, with the monsters and stuff, they do a very, very good job. It's like I said, like, it's a movie that's got everything for like every type of horror fan, and that's what's really, really impressive about it. Once again, for me, what I love, on a cinematic level, is the fact that they've got wooden walls. That's always the fucking like go-to look for me. Like, anytime that there's something that's set in a place that has wooden walls, that the filmmaker has said, I want a place with wooden walls, because it gives that production value so much more, because it just gives that creepy fucking like creepy tone to it, that like the old 70s sort of movies have, with these wooden walls and wooden floors, and then you're going to get the creaks and everything like that. So once again, it comes to like the production side of it, and all that side of it is absolutely really, 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 really done well. Like, it's difficult to put into words how much of a good job that they did in every aspect of it. But I also love, and I'm sure that you'll know some that I completely forgot about as well. But I love, like, there's a lot of really good setup shots for things that are going to happen in the future. So, for example, we've got a mirror that's on the corner of the wall, and they do a lot of shots of that earlier on. So, as a viewer, you're going, okay, that's going to play a big part in the movie later on. Of the, like, you can walk down the hallway, look at this mirror, but you can see what's coming the other way. That that's going to play a big part later on. As you already mentioned, the bells. As soon as they mention bells, you're like, well, that's going to play a part later on. Um, you know, uh, we know that they're going to play a part later on, and once again, it all comes down to the craftsmanship. And that's what's so fantastic about this movie, is that you can watch it as a movie and go, uh, you have your own opinion on the movie, but it is one of those movies that, when it comes to it, anyone can turn around and go, whether they like it or not, you can't turn around and go, yeah, but it wasn't filmed well. It wasn't looked,
Yeah.
like, it looked fantastic. There's so many really cool shots of like low down shots or high shots and so on like that. Um, but yeah, there's a lot of really, really fantastic looking shots in this movie. What's some of the scenes that stand out to you? Not necessarily just, it can, but in general, like, not just about how they look, but in general, like, what are some of the standout scenes for you?
The mirror definitely features really kind of prominently, on the when I watched it for the second time, that round mirror. Now we've all seen those mirrors, you know, we've all seen those mirrors at the end of a corridor or at the end of a driveway, so you can reverse out,
in
that kind of thing. So you
hospitals.
know that they're there. Yeah, yeah. They're there for you to see who's coming round the corner. And there's a scene kind of very early on. It's one of the first scares. There's somebody standing there, and Emile Hirsch does it's a very typical horror
Horror
film
trope, yeah.
shot. Looks in the mirror, sees a figure, looks again. There's nothing there. But that absolutely that chilled me. And the second thing that really bothered me was the Y incision. And she starts bleeding,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
and she shouldn't be bleeding at this point in her kind of
Decomposing state.
decomposition, or yeah, there shouldn't be this free flowing kind of blood. And it's Brian Cox's face, like you're saying, you absolutely kind of nailed it when you said his face tells you everything, because he's kind of like, he's perplexed,
Yeah,
but there's a flicker in his eye that kind of says, well, wait the now, that shouldn't happen.
yeah,
And he verbalizes it because he's recording the autopsy, but you can tell he's also thinking out loud, and he's a bit kind of like, wait the now, you know. And the other thing as well is the line that Emile Hirsch says to his girlfriend, where he says, some things you can't unsee.
yeah,
And I just think that's the kind of thing that you think about when you're in your bed after you've
yeah,
watched it.
yeah,
Do you
yeah,
know?
yeah,
When you've had a scare, when you've been creeped out by a film, that's the kind of line that you're like, oh god, that's right. Yeah. Once you've seen something, you can't unsee it. I can't unsee that Y incision. I can't unsee her tongue having been cut out.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, those were kind of stand out. But there's I think, and this comes down to the filmmaking, like you said. There's just this sense of dread
yeah, there is.
through the whole thing. And see that sheriff. I think he
Yeah,
he's a bism, because he knew from the get go something was up with her. He was spooked by her.
he still sent her there, the fucker.
Yeah, so he's like, "I'll
Yeah,
send it to Tommy
send it to the
Austin. He'll
newspapers, yeah.
sort it."
But yeah, no, you're exactly right. I mean, there's a lot of big moments in this movie. There are moments, so like for myself, I think the moment where they are essentially like cutting her skin to open to reveal the markings inside of her. Once again, it's like a moment in the movie. What's fantastic, and I'll go back to that moment as well, because I keep on thinking the things about the movie that makes it so good, is that, and I say this on pretty much almost every episode if it warrants it. But a movie that is unpredictable is one of the most important things that you can get, especially in horror, because we know what's going to happen. Like I've already mentioned, like most of the time we know that it's going to be a case of everyone's going to die or one person might survive, and it's how they get there and stuff. But this movie constantly throughout is unpredictable. It's unpredictable in regards to how the character's going to react to the situation. It's unpredictable in regards to the levels of what monstrosities that Jane Doe has had to endure. It's unpredictable in the ways that they're going to show it. Like, I didn't necessarily think that they were going to show it in the form of dead monsters walking around doing these horrible things. It just becomes a blend of so many unpredictable elements. But all in,
Mhm.
like I say, but all in the best way. Like, nothing ever feels out of place. Like, even though we go from one moment where we've got they're in the doing the autopsy and so on and revealing this, but then we're outside of that room, but yet we've got, like I said, these fucking supernatural ghost people things with it doesn't ever feel like it's two separate movies. It always feels like it's
No.
one thing. It all feels like it was meant to be that way. It wasn't like, oh well, let's just shove that in because there's we've got to have monsters or whatever, because people need it, because some horror fans need to have that. It doesn't feel like that. I mean, once again, it goes all the way back to what we said about not over sexualizing the fact that we have a naked body. The fact that they're just dealing with it as a corpse goes to show that they know what type of movie they're trying to create and who they're making it for. So, like I
Yeah.
mentioned, I think this movie really does a very good job of ticking a lot of boxes for different types of horror fans. But we get those big moments, like I said, where they do the whole cracking of the ribs, which is always a horrible sound, where they're trying to get that chest plate out, and they do that. They take her apart, they rip the skin off, and that's when the mystery is becoming even more, because once again, then it becomes down to that unpredictable element where you're like, well, I didn't fucking see that coming. Like
Mhm, mhm.
so, and then it becomes more about it, and then it's almost sort of becomes a race against time, because
Yeah.
everything is escalating, everything is getting worse. We get a moment in it, and once again, a heart wrenching moment in the movie that involves the Emil Hirsch's girlfriend, where they are being chased into the to a lift that is an old lift, so at some point it's probably not going to work in the movie, and they're getting sort of chased by the monster, and Brian Cox is basically ends up hitting it with. Is it an axe or something like that? Or I think it's something.
Yeah, I think it's an axe.
Yeah, and then he ends
Right
up.
there.
Yeah, and you think, oh, okay, well, he's got the thing, but next thing you know, it's quiet, and all we can hear is like that death
Yeah, he's just
gargle,
choking and
and that horrible, horrible sound, and it's that moment you're like, as a viewer, you're like, something's not right, and you don't know that she's gone back in there. But as soon as Emil Hirsch goes out there, it becomes once again a very emotional moment in the movie, a very emotional
mhm,
impact. Rather the impact being horror, it's horror in a different type of way, because the impact of now Brian Cox has killed his girlfriend, and it just becomes about like what the fuck's going to happen next. Like I didn't see
mhm,
that coming, and
mhm.
that's what's so great about it. It's such an unpredictable movie. I had no idea she was going to come back in and get killed, and I didn't know she was going to get killed by poor Brian Cox. And
No.
it once again, it takes the emotional element up another level. You don't know if they get out of this, are they going to ever be the same again, and then the thing is as well, the further along this movie goes along, and you're exactly right. Because it's a film that builds up the tension and the dread constantly. You do get to a point. I don't know if you do, but when I watch this movie, I get to a point where I'm like, there's almost no way they can get out of this because
Mhm,
of
mhm,
everything that's happened. How do they explain this? So then the movie
mhm,
just becomes for me about what is going to happen and how it's going to end, because of
mhm.
course, like, how are they going to explain that they've killed? They can't turn around and go, "Oh, well, Jane Doe made us do it." It was monsters. It's a real world movie, in a way.
Mhm,
Apart from
mhm,
it obviously being supernatural, but they treat it as if it's the real world. So it's got those moments. It's got that moment for me where, like, almost a switch in my head went, and I was like, "Oh, okay, well." There's no for me that I've always felt like there was going to be no good resolution to the end of this movie,
mhm,
and
mhm.
then it made me sad. I remember the first time watching it,
Oh,
and I was just like, "Oh, now I'm sad because I know that it's probably going to all go absolutely awful for him."
and you see it. You see Brian Cox's
Yeah,
fantastic face. You see him at one point accept what's gonna happen.
yeah,
He knows there's no getting out. He knows, but he pleads with her, "I'll not fight you. Just please spare him.
yeah,
Please, he's a good boy and he doesn't deserve this. I'll take it.
yeah.
I'll whatever you're wanting to give, I'll take it, but please spare him." Um,
And she
and for
fucking
a
doesn't.
I know.
And that's what I said about like the whole you feel for these characters throughout, and then the person that you feel for almost essentially the most, you then it flips it because you're like here he is, Brian Cox, this father who's just like, take me instead of my son, and then she fucking takes him anyway.
And he suffers. It's
Yeah,
not like, it's not like she's kind of like, "Right, I'll just, blink and then
yeah,
he'll be
exactly,
dead."
yeah,
She makes him suffer. She cracks his bones. She's already broken his ribs. He's been attacked several, maybe not several times. He's been attacked a couple of
yeah,
times by her. And then in the end, Austin has to kill him. Austin has to put him out his misery. So now Austin, if we're to believe that he's made this bargain, in our heads we're like, oh, that poor boy's going to carry the guilt of murder, having to kill his father, a kind of mercy killing when his life continues. I mean, obviously, poor Austin doesn't get that, but for a brief moment, you think we've got a final boy situation
Yeah.
here. You think, right, he's gonna get out, and I mean, he's not gonna have much of a life. His
And
trauma, his PTSD will be
well, that's it. And then
through the roof.
also, you then start thinking to yourself afterwards, you're like, what a fucking bitch, right? But then at the same time, then you're conflicted because then you're like, actually, has she done him a favor? Because all he's going to do is spend the rest of his life in prison or get the death penalty because they're not going to believe it was ghosts. So, that's the thing as well. So even if he gets out, they go down there. What happened here? Oh, Jane Doe, she was a witch and she fucking did it all. Oh, this person's fucking crazy, lock him away or put him on death penalty. So it becomes then, once again, it's like, yeah, she was like horrible because she ended up taking Brian Cox's, and putting him through this awful, awful, unimaginable, horrible, fucking painful death, as you were saying. But then she doesn't let, you think that Emil Hirsch is going to be the one that gets out. But in my mind straight away, I'm like I said earlier on, I already succumbed to the darkness, so to speak, where I was just like, nothing good can come out of this if they do
Yeah,
come out of this. So I already sort of felt like it was the whole like, well, either they're both going to die or one will get out and it will end like, like the cops take him and take him away and stuff because he's gone, they think he's mental. Or, he'll do something horrible to himself. But the way that they do it, it's a horrible way of doing it. But then you reflect on it and then you're like, but then does she do him a favor? So
yeah, yeah. It's just, I think the moments leading up to his death must have been. I mean, the whole thing is terrifying,
yeah,
but when he thinks he's so close to escape, and the sheriff sort of saying, just let me in, or
yeah,
let me in, so that he can then give it the let the sun shine
yeah,
in.
yeah, that one, yeah.
And you're just I'm so sorry.
That's all right.
Um, yeah, and then that moment was chilling.
Yeah. Yeah, it was that's the yeah, well, that's the problem with that moment because it's almost like if he if he'd have opened those doors, he would have that's it. His life is still over.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's almost like they're like, let me in or whatever, and he's like, I'm trying to get out, and the desperation of trying to get out. But unfortunately, the life that he would have had to get out, it wouldn't have been his life. As I said, he would have been in prison, or because what can you say that will get you out of this? You know what I mean?
yeah,
So,
yeah.
um,
There's no way you can swing this at all. That is, you know,
yeah,
going to
ghosts and
make
ghouls and
any
goblins.
judge. Yeah, yeah,
So yeah,
yeah.
so
I can see
there's
the
nothing he can
bell on
do.
a toe of a dead person. Like, they're
Yeah,
just gonna be like, right. Okay, so you were hearing noises, you were seeing things.
yeah.
Yep, we're building a picture.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
lost your
Yeah,
mind.
you've gone crazy. You've seen so many dead bodies that you've now gone crazy. You've worked with
Yeah,
your dad for
yeah,
too long and you've gone crazy, and now this
yeah,
is what's happened. And so it's a very, very sad, sad journey that we end up being on with these characters that we really, really love. Like we really, truly enjoy their time. It's such a well crafted movie in regards to these characters that are so instantly likable. And like I said, like the difference of the fact that it's a father and son, the fact that they don't they don't hate each other, they do love each other. It feels very real. It doesn't feel forced. It feels exactly what it feels like it's exactly what the film needed and should be. Because we're on this journey with two people that don't deserve to deal with what they have, and they don't
yeah,
deserve to have the outcomes that they have. But once again, that becomes what horror is. That's what horror is all about. Sometimes horror is going to be like the most fun you've ever seen, or this you get a film like this which is not fun at all.
it's bleak.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
it's one of those movies that can be a really tough movie to watch because you know that it's all going to end badly for people that you really like, and that's what's really sad. But that's what makes a very well made, structured, put together horror that is written really well, performed really well. The music is fantastic as well.
Oh,
It's like that old school sort of supernatural horror score, that only happens when it needs to, but doesn't get in the way of things. Like, they're not playing
uh-huh.
like this crazy score and soundtrack over top them talking about what's going on. That's left down to performance. That's left down to the performance to tell you what's happening and how you're supposed to feel. And luckily, when you've got two actors that are doing that so well, then you do feel those things. But the
Hmm.
score is
Hmm.
very, very haunting. It's a very haunting supernatural score. Once again, it's another thing that it's got for going for it. Like I always say on the episodes, and everybody that knows the show will know that everything in my mind when I watch a movie is separated. And once again, this is a movie we're talking about on the show where once you separate everything, once again, as we've spoken about on the episode, you separate those moments or those things, and then you go, wow, the score is absolutely fantastic. The performance is fantastic. The lighting, the set design, the cinematography, everything. Once again, you take it apart to put it back together. And then this is the reason why when people do see this movie, they go, wow, what a fantastic movie. Like I said at the start, I don't think I've ever met anyone, although there'll be fucking loads of comments now, but I don't think I've ever met or spoken to anyone that's watched this movie and hasn't said how good it is. It is one of those
Hmm.
movies that I
Hmm.
feel universally, even though it's underappreciated in the sense that it's not been seen enough or spoken about
Yeah.
enough. And I do feel that this movie could very easily be a classic. I think in 10 years' time, if people
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
continue to talk about it, I think it will be one of those movies that's held on a higher pedestal than it is. But once
Hmm.
again, the only
Hmm.
reason it's not on that pedestal now is because people don't talk about it. Um,
Yeah.
and if they
So
do,
we're doing a service here, really.
yeah, we're doing them a service. And once again, will we get any money for it or
No.
anything? I'll be happy with just a little wink and a smile from Brian Cox. To be fair, that's
Well, it's funny that you say
oh,
that,
go
just as
on.
a bit of an aside. So, right now in Edinburgh, the book festival's on, the film festival's about to start, and the Fringe has started. So, I am going to see a talk being hosted by Mark Kermode, and it is Brian Cox.
No way.
Yeah, Kate. Oh gosh, she was in Scottish actress who was in Game of Thrones. She breastfed the 7-year-old. Um, oh God, what's her name? Kate Dickey.
Right. Okay.
Michelle Gomez from Green Wing and Doctor Who, and so it's a conversation on modern film, what their guilty pleasures are, that kind of thing, and I am so excited
Oh yeah.
to be seeing Brian
Oh,
Cox.
absolutely. And if they do take questions, please ask them
Oh well,
something about Autopsy of Jane Doe, and then let us all know about it because
I will do.
um
What I'll say is, I've just done an autopsy of the autopsy of
oh,
Jane Doe,
please do. That would be the greatest thing I've ever heard in my life.
and they'll be like, "Get her out!
Get her
Get her
out.
out!"
Get the fuck out of here. She's drunk. She's
Who's this arsehole?
To be fair though, I think like it's one of those movies where like Brian Cox is Brian Cox. He's done like at least like 2 billion movies. So like he's
Yeah.
done a shitload of movies. So it's one of those things where it's once again horror is still, especially in this country, it's very taboo, it's very niche. So
Hmm.
UK is still shit for horror. Obviously, I would definitely say in the last 5 years, things have definitely changed for the better for long-time horror fans. Now, new horror fans get to reap the fucking benefits, but definitely within the last sort of 5 or 10 years, horror is slowly becoming more accepted. But I don't think for anybody in the US or anybody or anywhere in the world, wherever you're listening to this, in Norway, I know I've got some listeners in Norway or Australia. Um, but anybody, wherever you are in the world, never underestimate how shit the UK is for horror. because we are so behind on everything. It's basically ever since the 80s, all this country has tried doing is banning horror. And now they realize that it has such a community and such a fan base, that it is now almost having to succumb to that. And within the last sort of 5-10 years or so, now we're starting to reap the benefits of that, which is great. Starting to get obviously horror conventions, or a lot more people who are in horror movies get to go to other conventions that aren't necessarily just horror.
Mhm.
They get to make some money, which is nice, but we get to have conversations with them. So being able to have a conversation with, say, like with Brian Cox, or ask him a question before you get kicked out, that would be a really cool thing. But I feel like Autopsy of Jane Doe is one of those movies where, as an actor, I feel like if I did this movie, I would be proud of this movie. So
Yeah.
it's one of those movies where I would be like, I want to talk about this. So if somebody's asking a question about it, I think that will be something where he would just like, oh, I'd like to answer questions about this because I don't get asked about it very often.
Yeah,
It's a bit
yeah,
like when
yeah.
I met Rutger Hauer. I spoke to him about The Hitcher because, but loads of people obviously are talking to him about Blade Runner and movies like that. And I just wanted to say, you're like, The Hitcher is basically the reason I wanted to be an actor, like one of the main reasons I wanted to be an actor. And he literally would just not stop talking to me about it because he was just like, oh, well, nobody's
Wow.
talking about The Hitcher. They're all talking about the other stuff that I've done, or Batman Begins, where he's in it for like 5-10 minutes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Why are we not? Why is nobody talking to me about one of the greatest performances of all time? And that's how I feel with Brian
Mhm.
Cox. Is sometimes you get people like Brian Cox, and you're like, yeah, talk to me for fucking hours about Autopsy of Jane Doe. So hopefully hopefully you'll get to ask him a question, unless you do get
Yeah,
to
I
the
hope
point
that if
and
I do, he does the Succession, that meme where he's like, "I fucking love it."
oh yeah, that would be great, wouldn't it? Yeah, that's it.
He
The
stood up
thing,
and did that.
yeah, that would be great. But yeah, he's just truly fantastic, and
Yeah.
I feel like the funny thing is when you watch this movie, The Autopsy of Jane Doe, you almost get a sense of who Brian Cox is as a person. Like it feels like if he's faking this and he's a fucking arsehole in real life, then he's the greatest actor of all time. Because I want him to be my dad. Like I don't have a dad, so I
Yeah.
want Brian Cox to be my dad. That would be brilliant.
Uh-huh.
After watching this movie,
Yeah.
I would like him to be my dad. Ask him actually
Yes.
when you see him. Ask him.
Yeah.
Just say, do you want
Would you
another?
be pleased that?
But yeah, he's a truly fantastic actor. Now there was one thing that I'm absolutely gutted about this movie. Before we start getting into like production info and stuff, um,
Mhm.
I would have loved it if she went full fucking John Kramer at the end. I just wanted it when you get to the end of it and it's all the shit is happening. All I heard was dun 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 dun, the Saw music, and I thought she was gonna fucking John Kramer up, and I thought she was gonna get up completely, absolutely, starkers, walk out the door and be like, game over, slam it, and then fuck off. And I was just like, obviously I don't want that to be the ending, but at the same time I want that to be the ending. If she's just absolutely full John Kramer it, and then it's a Saw movie. I don't.
You know what that's just made me think of? Imagine if they'd done it like, the episode of Inside Number 9, The Trial of Elizabeth Gadge?
I don't think I've ever seen it.
Oh, I can't even say then
Oh
because that
no.
would spoil it,
Oh,
but you
don't worry.
have to
Say it
watch it.
anyway. It's fine.
So, apologies if anybody, doesn't want this spoiled, just mute me for a minute. So so the whole episode is about basically 2 witch finders, who've got this old woman on trial, and it's all very circumstantial. Like there's, they're kind of playing into there were no witches, as Brian Cox says, there were
Yes.
no witches, there were people who were hysterical. Blah 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 blah. And then at the very end, it turns out she was a witch, and then she just goes and fucks off on her broomstick.
Yeah, imagine
That
that.
would be amazing. She just gets a broomstick from nowhere and
And
just
just fucks
woo!
right off. That's it. But yeah, I can't help but see this movie now and want to just change the ending of a full on John Kramer in and just getting up. walking out the door and just with the Saw music and then just going game over. And now, as I said, I genuinely can't watch the rest of the movie without thinking that that is what's going to happen. It to the point that I was convinced that it was going to happen the last time I watched it for prep. I thought that that was happening because I had convinced myself so much that that's what I want, but it doesn't happen. And then I was really disappointed that it didn't happen, as if
Need to
somehow I
make
can go
them.
back and do it. Um, Someone will needs to like CGI or AI that ending and then like send it to me or something where she just gets up and shouts game over and the Saw music goes. But I'm not taking away from the ending because the ending is a really, I was going to say it's a fantastic ending. It's a gut wrenching ending, but it needed to be that way. I think that's the
Yeah,
point.
yeah, they weren't getting out of that, were they? As
No,
devastated as we are. That how we were saying earlier about, it is near perfect.
yeah,
It's near perfect until the very, very last
yeah.
second, I think.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
Um,
That's when I'm glad you said that because I was going to say that as well. Is that it takes it into that unfortunate horror territory where
yeah,
it's
that wee
very,
twitch of her
yeah,
toe.
it's very cliche. And also, she doesn't. From what I can see, she's only got a tag. She hasn't got a bell, so I don't know why the bell goes. And so it's like almost to be
Her
like,
musical toes.
yeah, she got musical toes. That's it. But yeah, I don't like that part of it because it's almost like just in case we do make money, let's make a
Yeah.
sequel. And would if they turn around and said we've got the same director, it is one of those things where it could almost be an anthology. Like an anthology where the basis is it's Jane Doe go into these different places every single time and then the things get all fucked up and shit. Of course, there's only
Mhm.
so many times you can do it. But because this movie is so crafted so well, that I would so be on board to see another one. I don't want one to say that,
Uh-huh.
but if they were to say like I'm the director of Autopsy of Jane Doe and I'm telling you I'm making a new one, I would be like, good. You know what I mean? If it was done by
Yeah.
someone else and they were just doing a sequel, then I'd be like, okay, now
Yeah.
it's the Hollywood cash in, the horror
Yeah,
Hollywood
don't
horror.
rehash it.
Yeah,
Give me something I want to see her life. I want to see her persecution. I want to see
yeah,
her story. Or, as I'd heard on another podcast, I think it was fantastic. Louise Blaine, um, she'd sort of said, "I want to see that crime scene." She said, "I want to see what
yeah. What
what
happened
happened
there?
in that house.
Yeah,
Show me what happened in that house. Why did an elderly couple turn on each other? Like what was she doing, and how did she end up in what looked like your kind of typical picture perfect house?" Do you know?
yeah. The
Um,
sad thing is
yeah,
they would end that with Brian Cox's beautiful little smiley face, and then you'd be reminded of the torture and the sadness of what the autopsy of Jane Doe is. So
he's like a cuddly bear, isn't he?
yeah, yeah, he is. Yeah, he's like a little Builder Bear, like a Builder
Tommy,
Brian Cox Bear. But
I'll take that to him.
yeah,
I'll take a bear.
yeah. But yeah, it's such a well crafted movie that I would be up for a sequel. But at the same time, if we never get one, which obviously we won't get now, um,
Mhm, mhm.
but if we did, and it was created by the same, crew car, like I think obviously not the same cast, but then I would be up for it. But it's just the fact that the ending almost sets it up to be that way, and you're like, oh, that's a shame. Like it's that typical sell out moment, just in case. But also at the same time, I have no idea. But sometimes, obviously, it's the producers that put those moments in where the producers are just like, you need to shoot a scene where she gets out and stuff. And even if it hurts the movie, they're the producers, so you've got to do whatever they say to make the money, or to get the
Yeah,
money to do the movie or whatever. So sometimes you have to succumb to whatever they say. And obviously, as we know, most of the time, producers they do the wrong things for the movie. And very rarely the right thing. And obviously, in this one, it was either the choice of the director to set it up and sort of like make you go, oh, that's a shame, or whether it was the producers and then you feel more for for the director of going, well, that's just that's on them. um
what
but
do you think would have been better? What do you think would have been more powerful? 'Cause I
i
loved that the sheriff said, "Get her out of my county. Just get her away."
I would have preferred that it just ended with Emil Hirsch dying. That's how I would have think, because we know that that's the end, because we're on this journey with them. So the end of their journey, the end of the movie, that with journey we're on with them should have ended with their journey. So that's how, from a movie perspective or from a structural point, yeah, we're on this journey with them. Their journey ended. We don't need to see who else's journey this may be a part of in the future, possibly, which obviously it's not. But it's a shame that, like, it should have been a moment of, like, it ended with, we know that Emil Hirsch is dead, and that's the end of the movie, because nothing
Mhm,
good, as
mhm.
we've said throughout this, nothing good is going to come from anything if he got out. So we might as well just ended it there. Um,
Yeah.
but it just, I think sometimes they just clamor on to, like, as I said, that moment where they're like, maybe we could make more of these, or this is now going to be like more about the mystery of Jane Doe, of where she goes next and all that sort of stuff. But sometimes we don't need it. We the end of the journey of the characters, that one, very rarely, like I've already said, very rarely are we on a journey with characters that we truly feel for and we like. And unfortunately, we're not rewarded for liking these characters. It's all fucked up. So
Mhm.
yeah, so it's really sad the way that it ends, but also at the same time, the best way to end it sometimes is on the saddest point that you can be, as long as it's earned it. That's the thing. Like I say this about, there's a lot of movies that don't earn the nihilistic approach. There's a lot of movies that don't earn making you feel like shit when you've watched it. A prime example for me is the original. I always forget what it's called, but they did the remake with James McAvoy, or but it's Speak No Evil, or one of them like that. Anyway,
Yeah.
but originally it was an international movie and so on. But that movie I hate, because I don't like movies that don't really do anything the whole movie, apart from its constant dread, its constant horrible things that happen throughout it, that are just there to make you feel like shit. And then the ending happens and it makes you feel like shit. Because what happens
Uh-huh.
is, at the end of it, I haven't enjoyed my journey. I'm pissed off. So, like, I'm
Yeah.
angry
You want
about
to go
it.
and have a shower because
Yeah,
you just feel
exactly. Yeah,
grim.
I'm
Yeah.
like, why have I sat through an hour and a half of watching something like this? But it doesn't earn it. Whereas then you get a film that's like, say, When Evil Lurks. I don't know if you've seen When Evil Lurks, but When Evil Lurks is a prime example of earning every second of the most nihilistic, most horrible
Yeah.
things that you've ever seen. The whole movie throughout is against this character, who for me feels like it's almost like he's looking for a form of redemption for everything that he's done, and everything is against him the whole way. But it earns every moment, every horrible thing that happens with a dog and a kid. Obviously, I won't say too much
Oh,
because people might have seen it. With a kid in their mother's arms walking down the road with the Halloween bucket brains. You've got so you've got fucked up things like that, and then the ending is absolutely it destroys you. But the way that you get to every single moment is earned, and that's why something like When Evil Lurks is a prime example of, it can still end badly, but you can still come out of it going, what a fantastic movie, and
yeah.
how well made it was. And Autopsy of Jane Doe is like that for me, where I come out of it and go, well, it really sucks that these obviously we know it's not fucking real, but when you're thinking about the movie, it really sucks that we spent all this time with these characters that don't deserve the demise that that they have. But what a fantastic movie that we've got out of it. How well earned was every moment in that movie, rather than getting to the end and going, well, that was a load of fucking shit. They all died, and what was the point? You never
Yeah.
feel like
Uh-huh.
that when you watch this movie. I don't know if you do.
No.
Good.
No, no, not at all, not at all. And like I said, some films you can enjoy and it can be a one and done, and you can revisit it.
Yeah.
But with this movie, I feel like with each watch, it adds to it. You're not
Yes.
taking anything away from it. The creepiness is still there. The scares are still there. The heart is absolutely at the core of it, and that doesn't change. It actually almost makes it worse
Yes.
because when it when I was watching it again for this episode, you do almost have this, oh God, I love seeing them quite
Yeah.
happy.
Yeah, you do. Yeah. Yeah, you do. You're right. You do.
You know,
You enjoy your time. That's the said, and that goes to show how well every aspect of this movie put together
yeah,
wise. You don't get that and you don't feel like that if it doesn't work or something's off.
yeah.
You know,
Uh-huh.
if you have a movie that's created this well and so structured well and written well and looks so good, but you have the wrong people in those roles. You know, I always say this as an example, you put somebody like Orlando Bloom in this movie, it's going to be shit because because Orlando Bloom
Yes.
for me isn't this type of, he's not this actor,
He's not real.
no, no,
Is
exactly,
he?
yeah,
No,
or,
there's not,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know, Emile Hirsch is a good-looking guy,
yeah,
absolutely good-looking guy, but he doesn't look any different to somebody that you might work with yourself. Do you
yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah,
he
exactly,
looks
yeah,
very, very typical,
yeah,
um, and, I mean, obviously, Brian Cox is Brian Cox. We've got endless love for him,
yeah, yeah. It's just great.
and that he is like a granddad
Yeah,
or a dad.
yeah, I love it. I do love it when you do get these actors that come out of what they normally create. You know, like we don't associate Brian Cox really with horror. You know, and he has done some, but we don't essentially associate him with horror. And I love it when sometimes they do associate themselves with a horror film, but then it ends up being a fucking gem, and then you're like, you hope that they do sort of more, or you hope that he would then work with sort of the director again and stuff. Obviously, and also it goes to show, like, because obviously I was just thinking in my head about Brian Cox in another horror and stuff, and then obviously he's in Trick or Treat, and he's because Brian Cox is the old grumpy man in Trick or Treat with the prosthetic nose and everything. Um,
Oh,
yeah, but
see, I was thinking The Ring.
of course, yeah, he's in the ring. So you do think it. So basically, I'm talking bullshit. He does pop in.
No, no, but I think those performances are certainly the performance in The Ring,
Yeah.
he's not what you're thinking
No,
about, is
no.
he? Do you know, he's very much a kind of bit part
Yeah.
of that story. Um, it's been so long since I've seen Trick or Treat.
Yeah, Trick
I'll
or
need to give
Treat,
that
he's
a rewatch,
basically the
actually.
one that Sam kills, or well, doesn't kill, but Sam is that he's the one that Sam goes after because he's the bus driver. Who drops all
Ah,
these kids off
okay,
the cliff by accident or whatever it is. But Trick
that's
or
right.
Treat, yeah, he's in that. He's so good in Trick or Treat. I remember did an episode about that, I think, and I just spent all the time talking about Brian Cox in that as well. But that's basically it. But yeah, he's fantastic. Emil Hirsch, as I said, is great. Everybody is great in this. And it is a movie that, like, once again, it's very, very clear. The point of doing this show is very rarely anybody will know that I'm not talking about movies that I think are shit. I'm trying to celebrate the movies that are so good, but I'm trying to celebrate them because there's so much to them. There's so much
Yeah,
reason as to why they're good. As I always say, the fact that outside of all this, I do look at the acting and the filmmaking side of it for me personally. I get to bring that to these episodes and give, sometimes a different perspective. So this is why a movie like Autopsy of Jane Doe is great to do, because it has I'm a horror fan and just really a horror fan, and I watch horror movies all the time, and I can love Autopsy of Jane Doe. But then you can also be a filmmaker and watch Autopsy of Jane Doe and then go, I don't quite like the movie, but I can't doubt how professionally well made this movie is.
yeah,
So it is a movie that works on so many levels. Once again, it goes to absolute sadness that it's sort of underappreciated or underseen as much as it is, which it shouldn't be. It would be so nice that this it would be really nice that in 10 years time we still talk about this movie, but we're getting to talk about it more because they go, oh, it's a classic.
yeah, yeah. Well, maybe for its 10-year anniversary next year. I
Yes,
wonder if it'll have a bit of a, it'd be great if it got a kind of,
like a re-release.
yeah, an Arrow release or a Second Sight or,
Yeah,
something like that, something quite, significant that kind of obviously would really resonate with us horror fans and fans of physical media and things. It would be good to see that.
yeah, yeah. Well,
Um,
we should get onto it. Both message Arrow and be like, look, 10 years, fucking sort it out. Autopsy of Jane Doe.
I'll have a word with Brian on
Have a word with
Wednesday.
Brian when you see him and become best friends with him. Get him to be my dad. then we've got it made. We've pretty much got it made
Yeah,
from this point onwards.
yeah,
As soon as this episode
absolutely.
comes out, I'll have a dad. You'll be in the money with everything, making money with Arrow Video. We're sorted.
Oh, it's
Easy peasy.
collabs ahoy.
Absolutely. There we go. Right. So we're getting to some production info because the difficulty with a movie like this being sort of, quite low key, there's not loads of production info and fact around. So I always have to sort of try and find what I can. Um, Talking about the cast, and it sort of goes into what I was saying earlier, but Martin Sheen was originally cast as Tommy is where Brian Cox was, but had to drop out due to scheduling conflicts, and then obviously he was replaced by Brian Cox. I mean, once again, I can't see it because I can't see.
No, and I like Martin Sheen.
Yeah,
You know, again, kind of
but
film dad,
the
film
problem is with
granddad.
Martin Sheen now is that he's so plastic looking. I wouldn't know who it is. I wouldn't know whether it's Jane Doe or him. I'd be getting confused. Um,
Is he like a melty candle now? I've not seen him recently, is he? Oh,
I
that's
think
a
he looks a
shame.
bit melty face. I think,
Oh,
you know, like that bit in Hellraiser where they're stretching it back and stuff. Bit like a Cenobite. He's turned into a Cenobite. Oh, what a horrible thing to say. I'm a horrible person. Martin Sheen's just turned into a fucking Cenobite.
but he was so good looking.
Yeah, he
But,
was.
I think that's always the kicker, isn't it? Like, it's like a man, like, if you think of him in The West Wing,
Yeah,
still a hottie, in
yeah.
his late 50s, early 60s, still,
So
you know,
now I don't understand why in Hollywood, when old, like, big actors, they go like get all their work done. Why is I need to be called the Cenobite look? Like it needs to be like the cent. Oh, all right. They go into like a Botox place or a skin stretch place, and they're like, "Oh, give me the Cenobite look," and that's it. And they know exactly what it is. They come out and they're little leather clad and their face pulled back and stuff like that. But yeah, Martin,
they've
I
adopted
can't.
a whole new lifestyle.
Yeah, that's it. The Cenobite look. Um, but yeah, I can't see it. Martin Sheen, as you say, you're exactly right. Good actor, but he's not Brian Cox. He doesn't have that little face that you're like, I want to give him a hug and be my new dad.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, and
the
I think as well, I mean, obviously Brian Cox is is massive. He's so well known and so well respected as being a good actor, but there is also a bit of an anonymity about
yeah.
him. You know,
Well, we know nothing really about him, do we? And
yeah, yeah. Whereas Martin Sheen, I see Martin Sheen, and all I think about is Apocalypse Now. Do you know?
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
big
Wall
movies
Street
like
and all that
that.
sort of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And maybe that's maybe on me. Maybe I'm being too short sighted or whatever. But yeah, I just don't see. I don't see anybody but Brian Cox
No,
as
absolutely.
Tommy.
No, and I can't see anything but Cenobite Martin Sheen now. So there we go. The production filmed at Home Farm in Selling in Kent in the UK. I didn't know that until I read it. It was filmed in the UK, which doubled as the exterior and kitchen of the Tilden family home. So yeah, it was filmed at Home
Was
Farm
that?
in Selling in Kent in the UK. It's not that far from me. So um,
Very good.
so maybe imagine that as like a video I could do one day of going to where they filmed
Pilgrimage.
Autopsy of Jane Doe. I'm not going to do that, but I'm just saying I could. Um,
Do it and lie on their front garden.
yeah, just like that, and they're like, "What the fuck are you doing?" I'm
Keep your
just
clothes on though. We
yeah.
don't want,
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to get arrested or anything like that. So yeah, so there we go. So that was interesting. They actually filmed some in the UK, which is nice.
Wow.
There are many details throughout the movie that initially appear to be goofs. The time on the clock does not change the way it's supposed to with the passage of time. Austin's face does not have blood on it after he falls from the stairs. Events. Oh, hang on. Where was I? Oh, so and when the police are investigating the morgue, the lights are not broken. It is very possible that much of the movie's events are a result of Jane Doe causing Tommy and Austin to hallucinate. And they did not perform the autopsy at all. It is worth noting that all of the deaths are caused by main characters harming each other, unintentionally or mercifully. And presumably the same thing happened at the Douglases' house at the beginning. So it once again, there's a different perspective that you can take, that you can look on, that
Yeah,
everything that's happening, that you're like, oh, I didn't fucking think that. But it adds a
yeah,
different perspective to it.
it does, because there's the thing that they find in her, the ginseng weed,
Yeah.
that causes hallucinations.
Yes. There we go. So you never know. So
And another thing, sorry, I've just
go on.
totally interrupted. Um, I there's only 2 bodies get brought out. It's only Austin and Tommy's body that get brought out. The girlfriend's body doesn't get brought out.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. No, it doesn't. Yeah. So what?
So you
Yeah. So
it's
did
just
that
yeah,
happen?
so it just flips everything,
Yeah,
doesn't
because
it?
then you're like, did that actually happen? Like, was that her?
Mhm, mhm.
And it didn't happen. But then also, we never fucking know now.
Yeah,
So she could be living a brilliant life, where everyone else is dead,
yeah.
which is sad.
She's just missing her boy.
Yeah, that's it. So there we go. So very quickly, before we get into everything else, like the first time horror movie memory and everything like that, very quickly, what are your overall thoughts on the movie? We all know that we both absolutely love it. Otherwise, we wouldn't be talking about it. But what would you say your overall thoughts on the movie are?
I think that it is rubbish. I can't stand
It's
it.
absolute shit. We
Yeah.
lied the old time, psych.
Sorry. No, I think it is just so slick and creepy, and it's criminal that it's so underrated. It deserves to be, like you're saying, it deserves to have a much bigger appreciation. Um, yeah, I think it's fantastic. Um,
Do you think, really quickly, do you think, because I was just thinking about when you said that, if it came out now, even though it's like nearly 10 years different, because horror is at a place where it is now, do you think that it would be bigger now?
you know, I think if it had the kind of viral
Yeah.
marketing seems to just be taking over things a wee bit,
Yeah, yeah.
I think it would be bigger. It might have had a bigger release. Um, yeah,
Because I
yeah.
feel that would be bigger now, because you think of like I said, in the last, especially since Hereditary, that sort of side of movie with that nihilistic, dread tension, throughout, and then they end like fucking badly and stuff like that.
Yeah, we're getting no
Everything,
happy endings.
yeah, there's no happy endings. I feel like this movie fits into, that audience more so now than maybe when this movie came out. Obviously,
Mm,
and you're right. I think like this film was not marketed or promoted the way that it should do, and that will always hurt everything, because if it drops onto streaming, well, so does everything else. And then people, unfortunately, if it drops to streaming, the stigma is that it's shit. A lot of the time. Now, obviously, it's a bit different now, because you're getting Netflix and Amazon, who are creating things with big directors, big actors, and they're putting it purely on streaming rather than the cinema. But obviously, Autopsy of Jane Doe isn't one of those movies. So yeah, part of me does feel that it'd be interesting if you could have this movie out now, and give it a little bit better promotion. I sort of feel that we were talking about it in a different way, if that makes sense.
mhm, mhm, mhm. Yeah, yeah. I mean, in terms of kind of comparing it to something, so, just what's just come into my head is, one a film that was marketed one way and actually turns out to be something else would be something like Longlegs.
Yeah, yeah,
Do you know? So it was marketed to be one thing, and on watching it, it was something
completely
completely
different. Yeah.
different. I guess they would be kind of comparable. Where am I going with this? I just mean that how I wonder how they would market it
This
without
movie, yeah.
giving anything away. Do you
Yeah, you're
know?
right. Yeah, you're right, because I feel like the way that you would market this would be like that Hollywood horror, like they would market it as in
Yeah.
like, here's this supernatural mystery, horror thriller. But
Yeah,
you won't, from the trailers or the promotion, you won't get the sense of the heart. You won't get the sense of the performance. You
that's
won't
it.
get the
Yeah.
sense of
Uh-huh.
the structure. You won't get the sense of anything else. So no, you're exactly right. It's one of those things that I do think that it would be bigger now, but you're right, because even, how do you market this movie without making
Yeah.
it seem like it's something that it's not? And then, like we all know, and like you said, you go into one thing thinking the movie's this, and then it's completely opposite. Same as, what's that fucking one that In a Violent Nature? The movie that I thank everyone,
Yeah.
because I love In a Violent Nature, but I think I like it more because I hadn't seen it until everybody was saying how it's a big pile of shit and wasn't what they thought it was going to be. And then I went into
Right.
it and I was just like, oh, I really enjoyed it. And I enjoyed it for what it was. So I thank everybody else for hating it, for me liking it. But it's one of those things, that film was very much so marketed as like almost a Friday the 13th movie without being Friday the
Yeah.
13th. And then you
Yeah.
watch it and pretty much nothing happens most of the movie and everybody gets pissed off by it. And I feel like you're exactly right. Like, what do you do with this movie? You can make it
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
you'll just show all the clips of the shit that happens. You'll show the monster things. You might show the bits of blood, but you're not getting the true sense of what the movie is. And then it's a disadvantage to the movie. And then
Yeah.
people slag
Yeah.
it off.
Uh-huh.
And then that's a shame.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's too that's what I should have said when you were asking me about my thoughts on it. I think it's special. I
Yeah.
think it's really, really special. It's one of these films almost like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, where it's just lightning in a bottle.
Yeah.
All those bits came together to make this kind of one perfect film.
Yeah,
Do you
exactly.
know?
Yeah. Yeah. Like the
It was all the bits
Yeah,
worked
like
so
how I
well.
say, like when I separate everything in my mind,
Yeah,
that's exactly like it. In my mind, I separate all of this, and then when you put it all back together, like you're saying, it's like that lightning in the bottle. In regards to like overall how I think about it, it is purely, you know, this is a movie I thought was going to be shit, but now in 2025, I'm still watching it and enjoying it exactly the same way as I enjoyed it, even though I know beat for beat what's going to happen, even though I know what the mystery is, even though I know that I'm going to enjoy my time with Brian Cox in the Millhurst, and I know I'm going to hate the ending because one, they die and you don't want them to, and two, she doesn't John Kramer it, and she doesn't, game over it.
fly off.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Or fly off. Those things. Those things don't happen, obviously, unfortunately. But we know everything that happens, and you're exactly right. It is like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre in a way. They have this rewatch value that they almost shouldn't have, because we're dealing with horrible things and we're dealing with
Yeah,
seeing these horrible things. Obviously, probably not to the extent of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, as I always say, that's one of two films in my life, the only two films that have ever had any effect on me. Um, there's only two films that ever have. Every other film, I've never been scared in my life of any movie. I want to be, but I just never have. Like I say at the start, it's all like, because I know that I'm watching something, and every film I watch almost becomes homework. I don't
yeah,
feel the same way as when like people watch it and then they shit themselves. I just don't get that.
yeah, yeah,
Like in
yeah.
my head, I don't feel that way. Maybe I'm just
You're watching
broken.
it with a different eye.
Yes.
I think when you're analytical or you're looking at the criticality of something, you can almost do yourself a bit of a disservice because
Yes.
you're looking at things with the idea of taking them apart.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's the
So
problem.
sometimes we kind of
Yeah, well, that's the thing. As a filmmaker, or as somebody who wants to be a filmmaker, now it's brilliant, because then I can pick apart these moments and say that could have been done. That, like my partner and now my daughter is starting to hate watching things with me, because I will say from 5 minutes in, this is what's going to happen in the movie. And then I just get that
uh-huh,
look at the end of it going, how the fuck do you know that? And I'm like, because I understand movie, I understand structure, but then every now and again, you get Autopsy of Jane Doe, and it destroys that structure, because, yeah, it has
yeah,
things where you're like, this is works, this works, this works. But once again, it becomes about there's two things in horror: iconology and which obviously I always talk about, the iconography of what horror is and how important iconography is, and on the other side, the unpredictability. I don't necessarily believe that this has the iconography. I wouldn't say this is a very well made and shot movie, but I wouldn't say this needs to be on like a mantle, a plinth to say this is a beautiful, like one of the most beautiful looking movies of all time. It's just a
Mhm,
very
mhm.
well made movie where somebody's like, I know how this is my movie and I know how to make it. But it
Yeah,
is
there's no scene in it you would stop
yeah,
and have it printed out as something to put on your wall. If
exactly. Yeah,
I don't know
exactly
if that
right.
makes sense.
Yeah, and if you did, it would just be like the shots where she's half naked, then you got somebody naked on your wall, and they're like, "Why you got that, you perv?" But that's the thing. So, in regard to that, you're exactly right. Like, whereas the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, there's a million
Oh,
shots in that movie that has that. Even though it's like incredibly low budget and it's shot on these cameras and stuff, it's still one of the most beautifully shot movies of all time. So, iconography is integral to horror. But the other thing that's absolutely integral to horror is unpredictability. And if you don't have the iconography, if you've got the unpredictability, then you end up being something like Jane Doe or
yeah.
Autopsy of Jane Doe, where even someone like me, who seems to understand where everything is going, apart from knowing, look, they are going to die and all that sort of stuff. But how it gets to those moments, I didn't know. And that it was once again, it means that it's a special movie, like you said. So it is truly a fantastic movie. We gushed about it enough. Um, if you have, we obviously love it. But there's so many reasons as to why we love it, and that's what makes it so worthy of anybody watching it for the first time or watching it or rewatching it like we have done, multiple times. Um, your first time. So that is a segment that I do on the show. I'm not asking about anybody's first sexual experience. Um, Although that is why I call it that. I just thought it was a funny play on words. But ever since obviously I first started the show, years ago now, one of the segments I've always had is your first time. That is where you, this horror community, or anyone out there, they can send me their first time horror movie memory, and then I read it out. I'm going to go through this one really quickly because it's pretty long. And hopefully I've written it out right. So this one's from fucking hell, I'm going to get this wrong. So if you read this, if you watch this or listen to this, whoever sent this to me, I apologize profusely for completely mispronouncing your name. But it's from Jota Comdiante. That is so fucking awful.
Wow.
I ain't going to get that. But either way, if they were on YouTube, I apologize for getting it wrong. But anyway, I'll call you Jota, which is still
A
probably wrong.
great sounding
Yeah,
name.
it's a great sounding name. So my first horror movie was Chucky, maybe because we never really know the one where Chucky goes to the school. But my official first horror movie was the Blair Witch Project. So obviously, as a kid, they probably just saw some Chucky and so on. But their first one was the Blair Witch Project, which is a great movie to have as your first horror because I suppose it really sets you up in regards to like whether you hate horror or not.
Oh,
At the
wow,
time,
yeah.
it scared the shit out of me. So much that I didn't want to walk into a forest ever again in my life. It's same as a lot of people. The jump scares were very effective on me. Everything from that movie was genuinely scary, especially as a found footage with no music at all. Couldn't agree more. Back then, I was more sensitive to horror movies. I've had more imagination. I had more imagination. I used to believe in the paranormal. So the movies from early 2000s were like bullies to me in a sense. The Grudge, the American version, was a constant jump scare. The Paranormal Activity was the one that led me to decide I needed to stop watching horror movies, or at least about paranormal stuff. Then it took me years to until I've come to the realization that I love horror movies because I was a horror fan as a kid. I used to read Goosebumps books and I liked the TV show as well. So once I got back on track with horror movies, I kept watching them, and now I've lost count as to how many movies I've watched so far. To me, horror movies are seriously helpful. They are cathartic. They make you feel better, make you a better person because they are about things we don't really want to deal with, and we can integrate our whole being instead of trying to be good vibes only and deny our dark side and all that bullshit that people talk too much on social media or self-help books. Another interesting thing about horror movies is how similar they are to comedy, especially stand-up. And then, and this is cheers from Argentina. So thank you, Jota,
Wow.
Jota. I'm sorry I butchered your name, but you are from Argentina. Thank you so much for sending it over. And it's a very interesting, look at horror, and it's a really cool look at horror because it is something that's very important. And I like the fact that it's almost your journey through horror. It's a very, very cool thing that you sent me. So I really appreciate that. If you give me yours. I like to ask my guest if you know your first horror memory.
So my first horror memory is being very teeny, like teeny tiny toddler memory is of seeing Michael Jackson's Thriller
Oh, fucking legendary.
as a tot. So I was, I don't know, genuinely tiny, tiny enough to put my head into the back of the sofa because I was so scared by it. So my mum and dad had it on VHS, and I think my mum and dad must have just thought because, you know, it was a music video, probably wasn't that
No,
scary.
it'll be fine. Yeah,
Um, yeah, and my parents were really, really young. They were teenagers when they had me, so they were maybe like, "Oh, it's fine."
yeah. It's just Michael Jackson. How scary is this going to be?
Totally,
Little
yeah,
did they
and
know.
I was terrified by it.
Yeah.
And then the one that really did it for me, and I love it now, is The Lost Boys.
Oh, really?
I didn't sleep for weeks and weeks, and I actually, nearly set my parents' house on fire because of that film,
Oh, really?
because I was so scared. So I must have been maybe 8 or 9, maybe even older. I can't quite remember. Like you're saying, very much those horror memories, you're never quite sure, are you? There's
Yeah.
always a bit of a fogginess about it. But I was so terrified of that film. And it was one scene in particular. It was when David reveals himself at the bonfire just before they're about to attack
Yeah. Yeah.
the
Beach bit.
bikers.
Yeah.
Which actually, when you watch it now, you're just like, fucking hell, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Kiefer Sutherland is stunning as a vampire, you know, as a dude. But yeah, I was terrified of that. And at night time, I couldn't sleep. So what I would do is I'd wait for my mum and dad to go to bed. So all the house would be in darkness, and I would put my little bedside lamp on, but I would put a book over it
Oh, right.
so
Okay.
that
I see where this
you
is
couldn't.
going.
I had my light on. There was one night I was doing it, and I could smell something, and it was my copy of Roald Dahl's Matilda, and when I could smell something, I took it off. There was a big brown
Oh,
ring
blimey.
on the back of the book, and I was just like, "Shit, shit, shit,"
And then you would
or
have sued
probably not
Kiefer
shit at
Sutherland
that age. Yeah, yeah,
for being so damn sexy that
yeah.
that
Big
yeah.
sexy bugger nearly
Yeah,
setting my house on.
absolutely. Yeah, but yeah, what a great movie. Yeah, I mean, I see. The thing is, I'm so messed up that when I was a kid and watched Thriller, I was too busy going, I want to do the dancing. So
Yeah.
that's it. Like the horror side, once again, like I was never affected by the horror side of it. But I wish I was in a way. I'd like to be scared sometimes, but I just don't have it in me. I'm just a double R bastard. But so there we go. So there we go. That's it. If you want your first time horror movie memory read out on the show, all you've got to do, if you're watching this, you can pop it in the comments. If you are listening to it, just head over to Instagram. Instagram is always the easiest way to send these over. You just send me a direct message in detail. Doesn't have to be as long, or it can be as long as the one you heard on this one. Just of your first horror movie memory, and then I add it into the episode. I always need them because I always ask for them, and I get them over, and then I completely forget about it, and then I'll go, oh shit, I need some more. So yeah, just send them over because then the more I've got, the more time I've got to forget about it, like the dumbass that I am, and then that's it. But listen, we've spoken everything we can about the autopsy of Jane Doe. You know that we absolutely love it. As I said at the start of the episode, now is your time, Emma, to promote everything that you do with Beyond the Screams. I've given you enough time to think about it, so there we go.
So, yeah, Beyond the Scream is the podcast that I co-host with Rob Taylor, and much much like this, we're talking about the films that we love. We're doing deep dives on films that we love, films that are meaningful to us. Rob is fantastic. He's an excellent co-host to have. He's a lot calmer than I am. I've got that kind of manic energy, but he's very, very calm. So we're 6 episodes in, and we've taken a little bit of a break over the summer holidays. And so we're going to be finishing the rest of season 1 over the coming months. And yeah, you'll find us on Spotify, Podbean, everywhere you get your podcasts. And I run our Instagram, so it's Beyond the Scream Pod, I think, over on Instagram. And yeah, just pop over and come say hi if you like chatting horror.
There we go. Well, that's it. Make sure everybody, I always say this, but please do, if you are supporting what I do with Let's Talk Horror, obviously it means the world to me, but it also means the world to me to for you all to go and support everybody else's journey through horror as well. So whatever Emma is doing with Beyond the Screams, you're sure to absolutely bloody love it. So make sure that you go and listen to it, as you said, on any podcast platform. Make sure if you haven't with Let's Talk Horror, you make sure you do with Beyond the Screams as well. Make sure you rate and review it. It is something that really, truly helps. People choose between one podcast or another. Are people going to go for the one that's got thousands or the one that's got 2? We know, but it doesn't always mean that the one that's got thousands is going to be any good compared to the one that's got 2 or 3 reviews. You might just find your favorite podcast, and I'm sure you will with Let's Talk Horror or with Beyond the Screams as well. I'm sure you will. So please make sure you go and enjoy everything Emma does. Rate and review it. Follow them on Instagram. You'll get all the updates. Do absolutely everything you can to support our journeys through horror. In regards to Let's Talk Horror, we're back. As I said, I think now this will be month 2 back. Probably, I don't fucking know. I don't know where it is. Everything goes so quick, and I'm just back now. And I hope that the episodes being back haven't been shit. I hope you've been enjoying them. They have been they have been longer, but they have been proper deep dives into the movies that we're talking about, very much like this one with Autopsy of Jane Doe. Maybe down the line, once I start figuring it all out again, hopefully they get a little bit shorter and so on. But they are what they are. I've always said with Let's Talk Horror, like, the conversation is what's most important. So if you're somebody out there that just wants a 10-minute conversation, don't worry about Let's Talk Horror. Just look at the reel or something for 60 seconds. That's all you're going to get. But if you want proper deep dive conversations that talk about the everything that the movie is, honestly and passionately as well, then that's what Let's Talk Horror does. I hope that you are enjoying Let's Talk Horror be back. I know that I am and not, because obviously the dreaded editing side of it is the worst fucking thing in the world. But, I've got to do it so I can bring out the episodes to you. So we're on all the socials, as I always say. Patreon, people asking, Patreon will return at some point. I just want to make sure I'm getting my foot back into the door, making sure that everybody sort of knows Let's Talk Horror is back. I'm sure they do with the zillion promo posts I keep doing at the moment. But, look, I love this journey through horror I've been on, and that I want to continue it. And you are all the biggest part of all of it. As I always say, I can do everything I can here in the Creep Zone. But if you watch it and you listen to it, or you don't watch and listen to it, well, then that decides whether it works or not. So I love this Let's Talk Horror community. We've got this bunch of chuds. Which is a horrible thing to call, because the chuds are probably the most grossest of the reptilian monsters that we get, or whatever the fuck they are.
Like
in chuds. They're not nice, but that's why I soften it with calling you all beautiful chuds. But look, I love doing Let's Talk Horror, and I just want you to continue this journey with me. So I really, truly hope you do. So thank you once again, Emma, for coming on the show. I hope you've enjoyed it.
Oh, I've absolutely loved every second of it. So thank you so much for having me.
Good stuff. So until next time, stay creepy, fuckers.